Welcome, everyone, to the Paranormal Pride. I'm your host, Denise Pridemore. I'd like to welcome everybody to June 2025. It's
June 2nd.
Yep, we're halfway through this year almost. So here we go. So I'd like you guys all to welcome my lovely husband, Ron. He's only lovely this week because he bought me a beautiful birthday present that you guys can't see yet. I can't see it yet. So
I picked it.
Yes, he did. He picked it. And actually, I guess it's doing three duty. It's doing Mother's Day and our wedding anniversary. So,
hello, Tom.
Yep. Hey, Tom.
Hey, Mom.
So, today we have a lovely guest. You guys have all seen him many, many times on the show. He's a good friend of mine. And we're going to welcome Frank J. Bennett back to the show. And we're going to hear about his last event that he went to and the next one that he's going to. So come on up, Frank.
Hi. You didn't catch me doing anything.
That's okay. We're all supposed to be, this is candid. We're supposed to, not like Candid Camera. Not that anybody here knows.
We all grew up watching that, man. That was way cool.
It was.
And Ron is very lovely today. There's a particular sheen to him today.
I noticed you were announced as lovely too. So
thank you, kind sir.
This is what happens when you get diamonds for your birthday.
Whoa.
I tip my fake hair to you, sir.
So welcome.
I take it tonight and sit it on a nightstand. It comes to me when I whistle for it.
Oh, so. Hey there. Welcome, Joanne, to the show. So,
hey, Joanne.
So how did your last event go?
Oh, now which one are we talking about? I've had a couple.
The one about 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks?
Now, this is what stinks about this business and for everybody who wants to get into it. It sucked, and I'll tell you why. I didn't go. Why didn't I go? Because, you see, I have good relations with a lot of show promoters across the country, and there are other promotions that are like just so huge that they barely know who you are without a check being handed to them. Mm-hmm. And that was this case. What I didn't know when I was talking to you is that they had already taken my slot and given it to somebody else. And this is Philadelphia. So I was all locked and loaded and reserved, ready to go to Philadelphia. And the day after I did my show with you guys, we look at our bank account and realize they refunded all my money. You pay for the tables and all that and for the space and the advertising. We didn't know it, but they refunded my money the day before I did your show because we don't check our bank accounts every day. We're just wealthy. And we just let the little people do that, And so at the last minute, and this is how fate just works, a promotion I've been trying to get on with for the past few years, which has always been sold out to me, the Carolina Fear Fest held in Raleigh, just happened to have openings. So, bam, it was half the cost of what the Philadelphia show would have been. And it was a shorter drive. And bam, I'm in Raleigh, North Carolina a week later doing that show. And I did well. And you know what is hilarious? I thought this is an opportunity when I go to the Philadelphia show, to sell so many of my Ghost in Philadelphia books because it's paranormal science fiction set in the city of Philadelphia. How could it miss? And I thought I blew my opportunity. At the show in Raleigh, do not ask me why. These people do not know me from Adam. Everybody was buying my Ghost in Philadelphia books.
Huh.
They weren't interested in the Aberdeen Wildman. They were not interested in, Questions for God or anything like that. They for some reason, just honed in on Ghost in Philadelphia. So in a strange way, it's kind of made up for not going to Philadelphia.
Well, that's good.
Oh, a lot nicer town, too.
Yeah.
Raleigh is.
It was far less of a hassle, I will say. It was not under the best of circumstances, but then again, who can predict such things? But hey, sometimes things work out, sometimes they don't. This week, I have the pleasure of going back to a show that I've done many, many times because it's a solid production called The Hollywood Show. And they've always been good to me. They're always solid to their word. And that way I know when I'm flying out to Burbank, California, I'm going to get what I expect. And that's worth its weight in gold.
I know you like that.
Not so much.
Yeah, I know you like that Hollywood show because you talk about it every year.
I get to see people I haven't seen in a while, and people I've actually worked with, and people who are friends on my Facebook I haven't seen in 3 and 4 years. It's that too, and we all just get to essentially sit around, sign autographs. I sign books and sell books, and when we're not doing that, we talk about the business. I don't get to really talk shop with a lot of people. There's nobody in the paranormal field who has been an actor, or nobody that's acted with me anyways. But we get to talk shop.
I think you're wrong. I think there's a lot more actors in the paranormal than there are paranormal investigators now.
I am mistaken.
I mean, you've seen the show.
We tuned in to Travel Go. We have Roku, and we went into the Travel Go app, and Zach Bagans has got some other new show. It's Destinations of the Damned, and in
we
this
saw
case,
it.
Yeah, and true to form, he sits at home while he sends other people to go do the hard work, and just sits there and narrates. How do I get a gig like that?
You know what? It makes me wonder, though, if this stuff isn't just pre-filmed and they just give him a script and he just reads it.
Mm-hmm.
Makes it sound like he's doing, planning this stuff out. So
I will be fair. The places they are going, Mexico and Colombia and all that, these are hot spots and they're very, very dangerous places to go. I can understand why he would want to sit at home. But dig it. If you really want your credit as a paranormal investigator, your boots on the ground. You're not sitting behind a screen watching other people do the work.
Well, he's afraid to fly now.
Yeah, he won't fly.
Right.
Now.
Yeah, he doesn't fly anywhere.
Yeah. You are your best piece of paranormal equipment. I mean, you are better than an EMF detector. I say that over and over again. And not taking your own intuition, experience, and intellect into a investigation is cheating the process.
Yeah,
and cheating the viewer.
It is, and there way back when in the day when we first started going to all these places and checking them out, as paranormal investigators. I mean, it's not like I didn't see stuff before then, but we went on a tour of Alton, Illinois. Okay. And there was a book about Alton, Illinois written by Troy Taylor. Okay. I'm not going to mince any words. I was very disappointed in the fact that when I went to interview him, he told me that he did not want to interview with me because it wasn't during the day. He wanted it to be recorded. And back then I couldn't record. Okay. I just couldn't. I didn't have the ability. I didn't know what I was doing. But when we went on that tour, we found out that he didn't even live in Alton. He lived somewhere else, and that he had people that ran the business for him in Alton and wherever it was that he had all these tours set up. And it's like, okay, so you're writing books and making money off of these books, which we know it's not a lot, but he did have a publishing contract with some publisher. Actually, no, he didn't. He was his own publisher, kind of like you are. And I was just very disappointed to find out that he was writing all these books from his house and basically not really checking these things out unless they were close by to him for him to go there. And I mean, it disappointed me as a paranormal, enthusiast at the time, wanting to know more, but yet how am I going to learn more from somebody who's sitting at home in his underwear writing a book that I have no proof that he's ever been to any of these places that he's talking about?
Well, I can prove for a fact that I wore other things other than my underwear when I was writing my books.
Well, I guarantee Teresa doesn't like it when you're running around in your underwear.
No, nobody wants to see that. Listen, I made it clear in my book, I'm not much on clothes. Okay, when I was growing up, really, you and I have something in common. We're really not clothes hogs. If it's over maybe 50 degrees, we're probably half naked. That's I've mostly always been barefoot. So hey, yeah, not to put too fine a point on it, but if I'm wearing a bunch of clothes, it means I'm a meeting people.
Mm-hmm.
I remember that story.
It's 90 degrees and I'm wrapped in a blanket. So
yeah, I know. I remember Ron telling the story one time about meeting you, and you're running around the neighborhood in a bikini or something like that, and you're just kind of like you're just out there, which I love a free spirit, but you're just out there.
You have to also remember.
Hey,
let's be honest. I was 17.
Yeah.
I was getting ready to turn 18, but I was 17 and I was allowed to run around in a bikini. And I didn't even weigh 100 pounds.
Oh,
so,
well,
I could have gotten blown away.
You're not like those girls I posted the meme about on Facebook who really, really desperately need a cheeseburger. I mean, that's different altogether. Everybody's. Oh Lord, that was hard to look at. Anyway,
well, you have to remember back then it was Geno's or nothing. If I was eating out, I wanted Geno's.
I'll shoot you. Oh, Lord, yes. But Ron asked in the last show we did a month ago if I had been back to where I had encountered the Aberdeen Wildman in the Gunpowder Falls State Park. And I told you all back in 2017, I got my kayak and went out there and took a whole bunch of footage that I use in my live presentations. And when I'm talking about you're the best piece of ghost hunting equipment you've got, what it felt like standing there in 2017, I can feel the difference between that and what it was like to stand there in February of 1980. I mean, it's just not there. A long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, I tried to make money selling burial plots for a local cemetery. And you spend a lot of time around the mortuary. And I was around a lot of dead bodies. And something you learn about being around a dead body, you just look at it, and after a few minutes, you just go, there's nothing here. There's nothing here.
Yeah, just the body.
Yeah. And you're not used to being around a human being, and you can't sense that. That sense of self, that sense of humanity. You can't sense it. And that's what I mean. I mean, you can pick up on these little intonations while you're ghost hunting. And you can kind of sort and separate what's right and what's wrong, and what's natural and unnatural. I think paranormal investigators rely too heavily on their equipment.
Oh yeah,
they do. They spend all their time. Not all of them. Okay, let's be honest.
Looking at their equipment and not looking. Yeah. They could have something right in front of them. They wouldn't know.
Yeah. And the thing is, it lights up. It's going to draw your attention when it lights up. You don't have to sit there and watch it the whole time. It's also got noise, and which I'll tell you, I don't like noise. I don't like any extra noise. I turn off all the sounds on my phones. You don't even know my phone is on except when you see me looking at it. But you don't even know it's even on until somebody really calls. There's never a sound. But that's the thing about these machines that people are using. If they're focusing all their time on that, what are they missing?
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Deception is the number one weapon spirits have. Mm-hmm. They can operate unseen and unheard. That's a huge advantage. What have you got? And the whole time you're looking at your devices, you're putting down the most important piece of equipment you've got to use. You have your own sensory perception. There were times when I could actually sense my mother looking at me when my back was turned to her. Creepy. But, that story could be told by hundreds and thousands of people.
Oh, yeah. Because I have to tell you, my kids, they knew. I knew my mom had eyes in the back of her head. She knew when I was doing something wrong, and she didn't even have to be in the same room. Your mom did too, I think. I mean, there's sometimes that you tell stories. Your mom's like, I didn't know that. She didn't know how often you were sneaking in the morning.
It was kind of like It was commonly heard in Ron's old neighborhood, a discreet voice in the middle of the night yelling, "Ron, stop touching that!" You know.
Hey, Suze.
Hey, Sue. Hey, Cheryl Ann. It's good to see you guys. If you guys have any questions for Frank, and the dirtier the better, we'll make an answer. I mean, the Bernisons should be able to come up with some really good ones.
So,
What
when you went back, you got nothing. You didn't get any feeling or anything.
Nothing.
Do you think it's because the
moved on? Or
that it moved, that it's no longer there, or
it was a culmination of things. When anybody read my book, there's a culmination of things that were happening to me for the last maybe 10 years leading up to that point. Because I've been around paranormal activity without realizing it for quite a while. And it began with my family. I actually inherited it. And it had followed me for quite some time. And you're a young, dumb kid. You don't even know what this stuff is when it's happening to you. But it was a culmination of everything up to that point, maybe like a crescendo, which manifested itself in the physical world right in front of me, which, to terrorize me, essentially. All of it was about harassment. I was being harassed by these things morning, noon, and night. Sometimes you can recognize it, other times you can't. You had this occasional glimpse of something that just simply doesn't look right or look living or look human. And you go, what the hell is that? Because you're just a young, dumb kid and you don't know. But you're scared to death, whatever the hell it was. You got that.
That's the first thing I tell people a lot of the time. When they say that they see something, I ask them, the first question is usually, how did it make you feel? Did it make you feel scared, or did it make you feel calmed or soothed or, confused? How did it make you feel? Because a lot of times, Cheryl Ann says she's come across one perverted ghost in her entire time ghost hunting. And then she also says, let's talk about the naughty ghost, how naughty ghosts can be. But then that's just her being sarcastic like me and you. But
well, you got groped at Sally house.
Oh yeah, I got groped at the Sally house. I got cuddled at the Sally house. I got cuddled at Malvern Manor.
Yeah.
I had the ghost get in bed with me that only had one leg. Only one that was prevalent anyway. But he did. He lost a leg on a train. He had a train accident. But so was it only his leg? I don't know.
It happens.
Hey, you're expecting me to contribute. I just let people.
No, I'm not expecting you to contribute. Not on that one. So, but no, Carl's even been. He's experienced a groper at the Sally house too. So.
Is that why he keeps going back every Friday night? I'm kidding.
Well, he hasn't been back since we left.
Is that why he keeps going back every Friday night with a bottle of whiskey and a Marvin Gaye album? Is that?
I wouldn't see Marvin Gaye, but that could be the reason why he's not going back.
Oh, Lord.
So.
No, but my paranormal activity, for anybody who read the book, they realized is just that the point behind it was harassment. And if you harass somebody enough, you can really break them. For me, I was sitting around doing nothing but figuring out why am I living and what's the point of it. And I've been handed every excuse you can think of not to go on doing it. And eventually I turned into this person who was only thinking about killing himself. And I realized that the jig was up. And I realized that there was something not right about it when I would have these really fantastic days and it would be right there in my face. I've got something great to look forward to and life can be great. But then just like a curtain just drops and all of a sudden you're feeling this foreboding of life once again. And gosh, I don't remember, but it was in 1981. I think it was February of 1981. I encountered it en masse. In other words, one of the nightclubs I was going to at the time, I met all my friends there and we're all doing what we normally do, drinking and dancing, blah, blah, blah. And I swear to you, one night, all of us felt this. By the way, I covered this in the book. It just honestly felt like a curtain came down, and all of a sudden the mood everywhere you went and everybody you ran into was dark and depressing. I can't really explain it. It's just you walk in 1 minute and everybody's what you're accustomed to. The next minute, everybody is just dragging down. And
I've seen that.
Is it possible that you had something in you that made you see everybody that way? Or there was something there that just went over everybody and you noticed it?
Yeah, you got to remember, I'm a 16, 17, 18-year-old kid having conversations till 3, 4 in the morning out in the parking lot with people, 10, 20 years older than me. And they're describing the same thing to me. They're just describing back to me what I was feeling. So it wasn't just me.
Can you repeat the name of your book for Suze? She asked what the name of your book is.
Encountering with the Aberdeen Wildman, a true story.
And Suze, just to give you a heads up, this is near the area that I grew up in, that he saw this, and because he grew up in the same area. Do you think that the reason that you didn't feel anything when you went back to that spot is because everything's changed in that area?
Obviously it's changed, but why, how and why? And which is, by the way, the point of my next book, The How and Why. But it was for me. Whatever happened to me that day in the marshes was aimed directly at me. It wasn't something I happened up upon. It was targeted directly at me. Because like I said in the book, it was only 6 months before I saw a dark entity right in the shadow outside my house in the middle of the night, outside my bedroom window. And when I first looked at the Wildman and how dark it was, I thought, here it is again. But this time I realized this thing is wearing clothing. You see, I had the ability to kind of half recognize it, which is an odd thing. And like I said, like I said in the book, about 2 weeks later, a really big friend of mine named Mike from the nightclub, he was the bouncer. He got really curious about the whole thing and wanted to go see it for himself. We both went down there. We kicked around and, didn't really see anything and didn't really feel much of anything either. I didn't really feel any. After we had gone back, you got to remember, it was freezing frickin' cold. Everything was frozen. When we went back, everything had thawed. So it really wasn't quite the same.
Must have been that year. Must have been that year that they started Energy Conservation Week, and it always got warm that week in February.
Well, it was not uncommon, as you recall, for it to be below zero a couple days in February, and then a couple weeks later, it made it to 32, and everything starts thawing, and it feels like a freaking heat wave.
Oh yeah, I mean, for the people who don't know, the Chesapeake Bay would freeze completely over many times in my lifetime while I was living there. And that year it did too. So when you were walking through the marshes, it was frozen solid at that time.
Right. And then you go by a couple weeks later, it's 32 degrees. Everything's been thawing. And in that time, a whole bunch of wildlife has been treading back and forth over it. So you're kind of sloshing through the marshes, getting to it. And so, that'll wipe away about any evidence you had, if you had any at all. But, going through the woods especially, sense nothing.
You think it was just going through that night, maybe following you? And the thing that you saw at your house before that, did you feel like it had any clothes on? Did you see any clothes that first time that you saw it? Just the dark outline? It's
an outline of a human being, a male. For some reason, when I looked at it, I understood it was actually there for me. Don't ask me how I knew that. I just understood that. Nothing's verbal. And you see, it's the shadow. It was a moonlit night. We had about a three-quarter moon or something. And the shadow of the house is over here. And it's standing in the shadow. It's standing in the blackness of a moonlit night. I could see it. So it's black standing within black.
Believe me, we've seen stuff like that.
Yep.
Yeah. Oddly enough, it had depth to it. It was almost like it was in motion. It's kind of hard to describe. But anyway, when I saw the Wildman, the first thing I locked in on it's a dark figure. Until I started looking, kind of like down a little bit, I realized it had on a shirt. But up until I started really honing in on getting a focus on it, it looked like the dark entity once again. Scared the tar out of me. You understand, I was just a young dumb kid, didn't know my you-know-what from a you-know-what, and well, it wasn't a difficult job to scare me.
No.
Yeah, and you're out in the middle of nowhere too.
Yeah. I mean,
like you pick up your cell phone and call 911 for help.
No. You couldn't even do tree knocks to get anybody to hear you out there. That time of night and that time of year. Nobody's out.
Now, I don't expect you to know this, but when I did the research, the island I saw the Wildman on is called Days Island. And that's in an area called Days Cove. Days Cove, back in colonial times, was actually a ferry route. There used to be a ferry that ran from that point of land across the open mouth of the falls to I forgot what point it goes to in Joppatown, but that's where people get off to bypass the toll roads and heading up to Philadelphia and all that, and Wilmington. And the storms had separated the land masses, so eventually it was just honed out to be an island eventually, separated from the mainland.
A lot of islands out there, that's how they came to be.
Right.
From different storms and things like that, tearing it up and making it, because Hart Island used to be attached at one time.
Right. Yeah.
So, but I only know that because my grandparents told me. Because my grandfather lived there almost his whole life after coming from Germany. So
now the Smith Island chain further down south in the Chesapeake Bay, there's only half the landmass today that there was like 30, 40 years ago. It's sinking into the bay.
Well, I mean, it's sand. I mean, sand washes away eventually. And because I'm not going to say that it's global warming, because it's not. It's just, it is what it is. It's the cyclical cycle of everything that happens in our world every day. It's more than likely something similar happened a long time ago, causing something similar to happen again. So
this is hard for everybody to grasp, and you'd have to see the area to understand it. But the Gunpowder Falls was a huge trading area. You had Joppatown. At one time, all roads led to Joppa. That's an actual quote that comes. That's actually found in English documents in Great Britain, because they did a lot of trading with Joppa, which was located along the Gunpowder Falls, just a little upriver from where I saw the Wildman. And believe it or not, 2 and 3 masted ships used to sail up there. It was that deep. It was that.
No, it's hard to believe.
That much of a draft.
Yeah, I mean, I remember swimming out in that river when the park, when we would go to the park and stuff. But I also remember being on that river in my grandfather's boat, things like that back in the day. But I also know that in some places it's so shallow that people go trout fishing in there, fly fishing.
Right. Well,
it's an interesting ecosystem right there.
That's from about 200-300 years of farming upriver. Because all the silt from farming and colonializing upriver came downriver. You remember Franklinville? There used to be a whole bunch of what's the word I want here? There were businesses up along the river, upriver along Franklinville, which is up the Gunpowder River, and all the development up there over the 200-300 years has silted the river, and that all just comes down to the Chesapeake Bay and, just clogs up the works.
Mississippi is the same kind of thing. Just saying.
Yeah.
But
down here in this part of Florida, we have the St. Johns, which runs from Jacksonville all the way down to just north of Orlando. And there are parts of the St. Johns that are 3 times wider than the Mississippi. I mean, it's huge.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it someday.
Oh, it's a hoot. Y'all got to come out.
We will.
We'll
Just got to get, I got to stop
different-
planning stuff. You know,
Yeah.
the minute I stop planning stuff, I'll have time to come. Keep planning things and they keep getting rerouted. Just saying. It's just life.
Maybe come around Halloween, because every other business here seems to think it's associated with hauntings. That would be the great time to come, because everybody's going to come down here looking for ghosts.
Yeah, but you know what? If it's haunted all the time. Why do I need to come in October?
No, you meet more of your own kind that way. A whole bunch of people walking around with dime store EMF meters they got off of eBay doing this, going up and down the street like this.
Oh, Tom asked a question. He asked, are you coming to the Hollywood show in Chicago?
I didn't know one was scheduled.
Okie dokie. There you go, Tom. And he also says the last time he was in Maryland was in 1967 for a wedding in Annapolis. I was 2, Tom. I was 2.
Annapolis is a good town.
It is. I remember seeing a wedding there in Annapolis.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful watching, all the naval officers getting married right there at the chapel in front of that old tree. That old tree is gone. It got
in the 90s. My wife and I went with another couple we were friends with to Annapolis just to kill the day. And the Naval Academy was doing exercises that day. And well, to make a long story short, it took effort to drag my wife out of Annapolis that day. It was just, a lot of hot guys in Navy uniforms.
I just think Annapolis, historically speaking, is just very significant for our history in this country.
Well, it was our nation's capital at one time.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
As a matter of fact, you go into the State House. I don't know if it's still there, but it was when I was there. You go into the State House, and they've got a full-size replica of George Washington standing in the State House on the floor of the Congress. It was cool to see.
Like I said, I went with school. I went with the Girl Scouts, and then I went one time by myself after I learned how to drive. I drove out there just to say that I went, and so I only went once as an adult. But it's just it was a really neat area then. I don't know what it looks like now. I know that historically speaking, parts of it should still look the same. Well, but we also know that no matter how many things stay the same, so many more change.
Well, fortunately for us, places like that are historical sites. So, there's a lot of effort put into not really developing them. All the development happens down south in Montgomery County, thankfully.
I remember when, let's see, what was it? The National Harbor, all that stuff didn't exist.
Oh yeah. I still have memories of us going down there in the 60s, late 60s when you were 2, and where Harbor Place sits today, we were just sitting, it was just grass.
Oh, I remember that too. I remember, so where the Harbor Place is, McCormick's, I remember that being behind there. And my grandfather had a house that was sold for $1 back in 1980 with that they had to put $10,000 in it. Mm-hmm. And then the apartment I was taken home to from the University of Maryland, University of Baltimore Medical Center was right there. Our rent was $25 a month. And after 1983, my mom said that apartment that we lived in rented for $2,500 a month because you could see the bay. Of course, now it's probably down to $250 again because that area is not as good as it used to be. I mean, I remember going to the aquarium and seeing the crab the size of a Toyota Tercel. I don't even think people know what a Toyota Tercel is now.
I kind of want to see that myself. I'd like to see a crab as big as a Tercel.
But yeah, somebody I grew up with, their father was actually the architect for the harbor place.
Oh, way cool.
And,
well, yeah,
and family history.
There was a highway running where the harbor place is now. There was a highway that ran through there. They ripped all that up and just moved the traffic up north, and it became Route 40.
Yep. So, and another piece of history, the World Trade Center there in Baltimore, the tall building that's right, like when you're looking at the harbor to the right. My uncle actually made a fortune selling them their fixtures for their toilets and all their plumbing fixtures. Made a mint.
Somebody made a killing because it's
and then he sold the business right after that.
And all the food they sell at Harbor Place is going to make you go to a bathroom. Guarantee you. Harbor Place is the first place I ever ate at a Fuddruckers.
Oh.
Who the heck ever thought that would be a name for a restaurant?
Well, we have a Fuddpuckers down here.
No.
Yes, we do. We have a Fuddpuckers and they have alligators.
They're still around.
Yeah, they are.
Really?
Oh, goodness.
I just looked the other day. They're part of the alligator rescue thing. Of course, I have yet to see an alligator here.
I ain't never seen a gator. Ever, never, ever.
I want to see one on my plate. Just saying. But so we're going to go back to, what do you think happens when, you said about everybody changed. It was like something went over everybody and changed them all into dark. You think it was just somebody in the room did that to them? A spirit did that to them? What do you think happened that caused that light to dark change?
Everybody was acting different every place I went. They were just different. Everybody was dour and down, and the mood just went black every place I went. It's cool to say it was just me, but I mean, for heaven's sakes, I mean, people who you think would be of a better frame of mind just were down and dour. Like somebody let all the air out of the balloon. It was just all over the place everywhere I went.
And did it suddenly change back?
It was oppressive, by the way. It was it was almost tangible. You can almost taste it. And it had this feeling to it, like the air got heavy and you just wanted to leave the room.
Yeah. Only
it was every place you went. And I'm not the only one who said that. I mean, I had people saying it to me at the time. It's just, and people started, just not wanting to go do things anymore after that. A lot of people I knew at clubs just stopped going because, they just didn't want to go do that stuff anymore and come out anymore and be in that environment anymore. And that was when about bad stuff happened for us too, but that's a different story.
Do you think that was related to our government at the time? Because I know that we had a really shitty government. I mean, I remember we all had to walk every place because we didn't have gas to drive. So at least I was, but I couldn't drive anyway. I was still too young. But
no, we were still trying to figure out. You pretty much figured out Carter couldn't fix anything, so you felt like you were on your own. That was the feeling. You were on your own. The states will fix themselves, and our government had no answers. That's how it honestly felt.
Yeah.
And you barely had money to do anything. That's how everything felt. I was lucky I worked.
Oh, I did too. I babysat for this one family 40 hours a week and still took care of my sisters and went to school and all that other crap.
Yeah.
So, but that was the only way I was able to go do anything, was that I made my own money, and I had to walk.
I also remember watching, I love to read biographies and I love to watch documentaries and things like that. And I remember seeing a lot of historical figures and figures in entertainment. And entertainers and all that talking around about that time period, feeling near about the same thing. Like the mood of everything just changed overnight. And nobody can put their finger exactly on one definitive moment about it. It's just one day it was good, the next day everything was bad. I remember that distinctly.
I remember watching the hostage crisis and feeling like everything was horrible. Because back then you only could see news at these distinct times, and I remember that and thinking about how horrible that was for those people's families. Because we had actually somebody in Essex who was on there, was one of the hostages. They lived across the street from the Moose Hall in Essex, and their family had the decorations up from every holiday, and they said that they were going to keep decorating for each holiday until they come back so that they can celebrate the holidays with them when they come home. And so I guess because we were directly influenced by the fact that there was somebody in our area that was one of the hostages, maybe
it's just kind of brought it home for you. It kind of brought it up front for you.
Yeah. And I wasn't even there. I don't even think I was there when he got to come home. I think I was already in Blytheville, Arkansas by then. I don't know. When did Reagan become president?
80.
Oh,
January of 80.
I was home. Never mind.
Well, he was elected in 80, sworn in January of 81. Or February of 81, one of the two. Up till then, he had to suffer with Mr. Carter.
Yep.
And Rosalind was only so cute.
Well, we drive by Jimmy Carter crap all the time when we go through Atlanta. So,
Well, at least he didn't hate our country.
Yeah.
He was just an idiot.
I mean,
didn't know how to run shit. But.
Yeah. Oh, and Billy Beer was not Jimmy Carter. That was Jimmy Carter.
Billy.
Yep.
His brother.
I was thinking of Bill Clinton's brother, but that would be Bill.
I never met a living soul that drank Billy Beer. I don't know where all this Billy Beer was. I never met a soul that had it.
He's probably made it in his backyard.
It's probably made in his bathtub.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember seeing cans, but I don't remember.
You can buy them on eBay.
Anybody drinking them.
Yeah, you can buy them on eBay, but it's just I don't know where all this Billy Beer was. I didn't see any of it. I personally didn't start drinking until I tried to turn 21.
Tried.
You gotta understand, the week I turned 18, state of Maryland jacked drinking age up to 21.
Yeah.
And by the time I turned 21, I wasn't living in the state of Maryland anymore. I was living in Pennsylvania, and they knocked it back down to 18. So I was kind of delayed gratification on that. And I'm really can't sit here and say I was glad I could finally drink.
You're just legal. That was it.
That's a 1980s story, which should be left.
Well, Ron said that when he was growing up, the drinking age in Illinois was 18. 19. Yeah. So they would drive over from St. Louis to go over there to drink and then drive back, which is even worse.
From what we heard.
Oh, that's right. He never did that, Karen. He never.
I just heard rumors of that.
Yeah, she knows.
Well, I also had a friend that was 17 that looked about 38. He had gray hair and
solid gray hair.
Never got.
I relate.
Never.
Oh, yeah, they had high-low beer. Yeah, they had high-low beer in a lot of places. So, see, your mom goes, I didn't know that.
Yeah, I know.
It's the stuff that they hid from you, Karen.
I didn't buy it.
Uh-huh.
It's good to have high friends in low places.
I have a lot of low friends in high places, which is even better. Keeps me out of trouble. Gets me out of trouble.
I had been trying to find a biblical equivalent to what I was just describing about the sudden drop in mood, all that stuff.
Yeah.
I don't really think I have. So to this day, I'm still trying to work it out. I can't think of any natural phenomenon that would account for it to make an entire population, feel the same thing all at once.
Like I said, the only thing I can come up with is possibly the economy, because it was really shitty. And even as a kid, I knew it. And that's the thing. I mean, I was 15, 16 years old, and I knew that this was not good. I also knew it wasn't right. But we've had
gas shortages and 21% interest rate on a home.
I wouldn't have known about interest rates at 15. I learned about it in school, but I didn't think about it. We didn't.
I just heard about it.
Yeah, we never even had we lived in government subsidized housing. We didn't have to worry about interest rates on houses.
Yeah,
but
do you know that more than a million people became homeless in the last 4 years?
No, I had no clue.
There's an entire population of people out there who vote, who sleep in their cars.
Right.
And when I was living, oh gosh, a lot of times when I go out to California, I see it everywhere I go. The homeless problem out there is hard to describe to you. It's just become such a way of life. But there's just as many that's just sleep in their vehicles. And when we were living down here in Florida last time, when we had the last hurricane in 2019, 2019, people were, basically living in rental cars. And, you go into the parking lot of any motel and you see people in their cars on their phones trying to get extensions on their credit so they can stay in a rental car another 30 days. It was that bad. There's a whole population out there living in their cars.
Well, because you can rent a car for $35 a day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly.
That's just so sad. But we've been in a situation where we were at a conference. Everything was great. Everybody was getting along. It was really nice. Yep. And this band of people walked in. They were actually a band, and
dark metal band.
Air went out of the room.
Yep.
And we just kind of looked and said, "It's time to go."
We left,
and we were fine after that. Everybody who came with us, they were great after that. And I don't know if Carl remembers that. He was there, but we took.
It was
the people that came with the people that came up from Springfield stayed at our house. So we had, got them out of there. But it was just one of those things that made you wonder, what in the hell's going on? What are they doing?
And it was packed too.
Yeah.
They had a lot of people there, and the mood of the whole place has totally changed.
Mm-hmm.
Not a smile in the place.
No, it was weird. I said, let's go.
So
yeah, and so this is why I keep saying that you're the best piece of ghost hunting equipment you got. You're sensitive to these changes in the atmosphere. You don't have a piece of equipment that can do this. Now, when you're looking at an EF meter, what are you seeing? You're seeing changes in the electromagnetic field, allegedly. And this is kind of dipping into what my next book is about, because I have been discovering that it's uncommon to have changes electromagnetic field without variants of radiation involved. So if you have a spike in radiation, you're affecting the electromagnetic field, which also led me to starting to be concerned for people who are near and dear to paranormal activity too much. Because if you're on an investigation, you're getting nothing but spikes and whatever, your EMF meter is going crazy. You may be in too close proximity to dangerous radiation.
Yeah.
And what else turned me down this path is I was trying to figure out how people who have encountered UAPs, which is the cool new term for the UFO activity, sure, I'll play along. I'll call it that. When they're describing the sites where UAPs have landed, and they were describing the physical manifestations, such as the area around it being burned and things like that, I started thinking to myself, okay, what in nature can do that? I can tell you what can do that. Focused radiation can do that.
Mm-hmm.
A focus of radiation, intense radiation, will burn the living crap out of about most anything you can think of.
Yeah, my cousin Dan, he talked about some of that, about how how it seemed odd. I mean, I don't know this for a fact, but he shared with me that all the houses that had red roofs in Hawaii weren't burned, but all these other ones were during the fires out there.
Yes. Yeah, I remember them.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was weird.
Why is that? Is it because maybe it was focused radiation and it can't see red? Maybe it was a laser. Who knows? Something that we can't see. But the red, it can't see. Maybe it can't see the red. Maybe it sees everything else.
May also, and unfortunately, I have a background in some things. Different developments and different developers will use different types of materials to build their homes.
Mm-hmm. So what do you suggest to make us less radioactive, or better suited to not be hit by a laser beam or radioactive crap from a satellite?
Like in an EMF meter, by the way, advanced EMF meters, I have used them in my daily walk because, ordinary people will use them to look for heat sources behind walls.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Electrical contractors will use them to look for hot lines. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Unshielded cables and other stuff like that. Yeah.
Unshielded cable and stuff like that. Yeah. But, bleed throughs, also in the industrial realm, it also tells you if a pipe that is conducting certain kinds of chemicals is about to fail, if a crack is developing along it or something like that. Anytime you have a change in the structure of something, the heat will usually be involved.
Mm-hmm.
If something is, if you take a piece of metal, you bend it and bend it back, it's going to be hot.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
There you go. As simple as that. So if you're getting a spike or your meters, especially the more advanced ones, I take a step back because you're too close to something that's harmful, in my opinion. Limited contact is not a problem. You can get by fine with limited contact, but if it's happening to you on a regular basis, you could be looking at some trouble. I mean, you gotta leave the roast in the oven a good while before it comes out nicely cooked. So you ain't going to cook it by limited exposure to the heat.
Yeah. Well, that's, if it wasn't for people like, what is her name? The Julia Roberts played her in a movie, and
Brockovich.
Erin Brockovich.
The lady with the knockers.
Yeah, she was built, that's for sure. But she brought to light a lot of things that was environmental, that was causing people to be very sick. Which makes me wonder, why do people still build houses near high power voltage lines?
Because it's cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's the builder that built our house has a subdivision down the road that is right near high power lines. And a friend took me down there, so she wanted to show me. She goes, "Here's your house in this neighborhood." And I said, "That wouldn't be my house in this neighborhood because I wouldn't live in this neighborhood."
No.
Because we were sitting there, and as she was talking to me, I could hear the power.
Oh yeah.
In the lines.
Yeah, you can hear it.
Buzzing. Oh, that ain't good.
No, because that means something's wrong. Something's really wrong if you're hearing the buzzing. And I mean, I know
a lot of power going through.
Yeah, there's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you've ever seen,
that's the first thing I noticed when we drove by it.
Yeah, I know, me too.
Like, wow.
Yeah. Luckily, that wasn't a subdivision to look at when we were buying houses. No. But it's strange, you're in all these neighborhoods with buried power lines, and here's these high powered lines going across, above the houses. It's like,
they probably got buried lines.
And they do. It doesn't make sense. So I don't know. I know that's the reason why schools and stuff get that property, is because it's so cheap. They usually can't sell it for anything. So they donate it to, whoever to utilize for churches, schools, cemeteries, things like that. Well, I guess they're not really using it for cemeteries. Maybe they're afraid that the people will come back to life and haunt them. Option, I guess.
Option. But
So
have you experienced anything after the Wildman?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. After all of that took place, it was really a bad time in my household, and I'm going to leave it at that. But what followed that was everybody just dispersing. Everybody I knew was just dispersing away. All the friends I had, all the contacts I had. I was kicked out of school, by the way. And everybody I had contact with, they just faded away, and they went their own way, and they were gone. And I was kind of really just alone. And after, I didn't feel safe walking anywhere, but I had to go walking around looking for work. And, I got a couple jobs, working at Towson and stuff like that. And I would have to walk there and go through the woods. And man, I was scared to go through the woods anymore. Like I said, when you see one dark figure, it kind of rattles you to the core. It's something, it touches you on a spiritual level. And I spent the majority of the 1980s looking over my shoulder, expecting to see it again. Not afraid I'm going to run to it. You just expect to see it.
Right.
It kind of beats up your psyche a little bit like that. But the next thing I remembered being actual paranormal I can identify is after I had moved up to Pennsylvania. And I had my first encounter with what you would all refer to as sleep paralysis. Now, mine was very light in comparison to all the other stories I had seen and examined. I mean, holy heck, some people really went through some real stuff. Mine was very mild in comparison. But it's really, when you have experienced sleep paralysis, really reflect on it, because it's doing the same thing that had been happening to me my whole life. It's something else that just puts fear in you. You're being made to just fear something and experience something you fear, and there's nothing you can do about it. You're trying. You're wide awake. At least you think you are. I was pretty sure I was, because I could roll my eyes over and see the time on my clock on the stand. Yeah. And as I moved my eyes back and forth, I could always look over and see that the time is changing on the clock. So I had that. But you're there, and you're being, you just woke up and you're paralyzed from head to toe. You can only look around with your eyes, and you can't do nothing. And you're terrified. And who's going to find you? Unless somebody comes looking for you later. Again, I know what it felt like. I know what it felt like when I encountered the dark entity, the Sasquatch, the strange other creatures in the forest, which I don't have a name for, and the Wildman. Fear, each and every time. That's what they do. And fear is an extremely powerful way to control somebody. And if it happens...
It's the number one way of controlling people is fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was a form of harassment. And like I said in the book, a lot of these things, when I got away from my family once and for all, because I really moved up to Pennsylvania because I had no place to go. I had lost my last job in Baltimore, and I couldn't find work anyplace else. And if my folks found a farm up in Pennsylvania, and so, it was either move up and live with them for a while and look for work up there, or stay and knock around here in Baltimore homeless and look for work. So I chose the home. And you got to work on a farm, but that's okay. I've done that before too. It wasn't until I finally decided to just get away from my family that things started kind of calming down. The oppressiveness went away, and, the dreams did not completely go away, but they weren't as bad. And the incidences of paranormal activity had more or less stopped. I say more or less, but they have more or less stopped. Nothing really stopped completely until the mid-90s when I got saved. When I got saved, everything came to a screeching halt. And when I got saved, it was very emotional for me because I did not realize until that time that I did not feel normal. Shh.
That's the alarm on my phone.
Yeah.
That's my alarm to take my medication, because if I don't take it, I'll just ramble on like an idiot. Good thing I amped up on my medication earlier. I'd be running my mouth too much. But anyways, but I had not realized until then that I felt so clean. I felt so free. And I realized I did not feel like, the last time I felt like this, I was a little kid. I did not realize that since I was, I don't know the age, but maybe 8, 9, whatever, oppressively, it just started weighing on me and pushing me down and pulling me down and changing me and putting fear in me and all that. I did not feel like that for so many years. And it's odd. You get used to it. It's odd what you get used to. And it wasn't until I was freed by being saved, I felt like I did when I was just a little kid, and I didn't have a care in the world anymore. And I wasn't afraid of anything anymore. Dreams are gone. Apparitions are gone. The voices are gone. Of course, in the book, I write about something else that I have found other people comment about, and that's disturbing visual images they would have for no good reason whatsoever. I had those since I remember being in the first grade when I was 8 years old. They were with me my whole life, and you just get used to them.
And you weren't asleep when you were having those visions.
I remember sitting in the classroom in the first grade.
Awake.
Sitting in the classroom, first grade, and I'm looking up at remember they used to have the alphabet I was in Catholic school, but in Catholic script across the top of the blackboard, and I remember seeing these images just pop up of, bizarre dismemberings and things like that. And if you're really a little kid, you don't know what you're looking at. And those things followed me all my life. But what's bad is you get used to it. And you just figured it will go away. Because it isn't really hurting you. It's just really messing with you. Those things followed me all the way up until the mid-90s, until I got saved. And they would pop up at random. Usually they really amped up big time when I started to go to church in the early 90s and was really trying to rediscover my faith. That's when it got really bad. I mean, it was going out of its way to inhibit my ability to focus on anything. And that went away. Completely gone.
You think that maybe a demon was trying to...
Y'all got bugs there? Y'all got bugs?
No, it's cat fur.
Oh.
He was petting the cat.
Our big hairy cat down there, I was scratching her, and then she took off. And of course, when she took off, a couple clumps of hair floating around.
See?
Yeah, the fur do fly, doesn't it? Oh my.
Yeah. So, this reminds me. You're talking about where you live and stuff from when you lived there the last time. Do you remember this dude?
I remember that dude.
Yep.
I do.
It hangs right here above my desk.
I do remember that dude. One day I shall have a dude like that. That did not come out well. Okay. There's no good way to recover from that, so I'm just going to let you all take it from there. So,
well, we're not going to do a very long show tonight because I've been suffering from a headache all day, and I did not want to tell
sure you. Been helping, hasn't it?
No, I mean, I've said in the past that if I was really sick and I needed to have a show, you're the perfect person to have on, because all I got to do is say, "Welcome, Frank Bennett, to the show," and it's done.
Yeah, and then 90 minutes later.
Yeah. So needless to say, I figured we do the show. Tell us about the event, more about the event that you're going to. What are you speaking in a panel or anything like that this time?
No, at this event, I don't do a live panel at this event. This one's just for the celebrities. And I go, well, like I said, this is kind of like a me thing. I sell a lot of books. I always do. The last time I was at this show last year, I sold out. And
good. I hope you do again.
And oh man, I'm sorry. I just had a thought that made me sad. But It's really for me so I can work in the Hollywood environment, and I meet a lot of people in the business, and we get to talk about our business. And believe it or not, a lot of these people you see on TV and in movies are regular people. I didn't care for him when I met him, but I look forward to seeing George Hamilton again because he reminds me so much of my dad in so many ways.
He reminds me of a honey baked ham.
He's so smooth.
He is.
But at one show we were doing, I can't get along with air conditioning in some places. If the air conditioning is a certain way, I can't breathe very well. I have to go stand outside and get regular air. And at one event we were all doing down in Timonium, Maryland, George Hamilton was on the bill, and I went outside to get some regular humidity in back of my lungs. And lo and behold, there he was out there doing the same thing. And, he ain't a youngin'.
No, I think the last thing I saw him on was a commercial, and he was just laying in a lawn chair. I think it was in Vegas, but I'm not sure.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yeah, but I thought he was a pretty good actor. He always was very sarcastic and always had a smile on his face. So
yeah, he has I didn't like him when I met him, but some people grow on you.
He's a big flirt.
Yeah, there's a lot of people say the same thing about me, by the way.
Yes, we know that. I know that.
We know that. And some you just got to get to know some people. Some people are not easy getting to know out of the gate.
Oh, yeah.
I had to show Ron George Hamilton. So that he knew who he was.
Yeah, he reminds me a lot of my dad. My dad was an enormously good-looking guy, and he was a bit of a snake charmer. And yeah, that's Hamilton up and down.
Wasn't he on Dynasty for a little bit?
No.
What show was he on besides
You think of John Forsythe?
Oh, I know about that, but
Yeah.
no, there was, like I said, he was on Love Boat a lot. He was on Fantasy Island a lot.
Well, he was known in the 60s. He was on, I think, Peyton Place, which was a big deal in the 60s. But he had done a crudload of movies. He had actually played two interesting characters. He had played Evel Knievel, and he had played a vampire. And both of them were really fun, kind of cute movies to watch. But he's a pretty well-rounded actor, Like
I said, I saw him a lot. I mean, and he was always linked with Elizabeth Taylor for a while. I mean, not that they were together, but that they were friends. But I don't know.
Yeah, we call people like that Lucky Duck. But other people I'm looking forward to seeing is another person I made friends with. Her name's Sandy Gimbel. And she, I don't know if she's Hollywood's oldest stunt woman. And I hope she's not watching this because I don't want to get beat up. Sandy is a black belt in karate. She's in her 80s, and she could probably beat the living snot out of me. But I got to know her, and we really get along good. She was in 5 Elvis movies. She was on 3 episodes of the original Star Trek.
Okay.
And
I'm getting this now that you really like women who are related to Elvis and Star Trek, because I've met one of the women that was related to Elvis and Star Trek.
Well, that went out now. Now, Dawn had nothing to do with Star Trek.
I know.
That's an exception, but there are just some people you gel with and some people you don't.
Right.
No matter. To this day, I'm willing to bet that half of the people I'm going to meet this weekend have no clue what I do. But they're glad to see me again and talk to me again. That's good.
Yeah, that's good. So it's good that you're doing something for yourself. Is Teresa staying home?
She doesn't like these shows.
I didn't think she did. She doesn't like just sitting at your table waiting for you to get done.
Pretty much, yeah. But also, there's nobody she's impressed by. She's not impressed by celebrities. She's not impressed by powerful people. She's the last person You remember Nixon's vice president, Agnew?
Mhm.
He's the last person who had seen him alive.
Oh,
And
how's that?
How did that happen? We were living in Ocean City, Maryland at the time. Most of the politicians in Maryland and D.C. had condos in Ocean City.
Zero.
Yeah, and Agnew was really going downhill health-wise. Teresa worked at a local medical facility, you know, one of those emergency care places you wander into when you've had a boo-boo. Yeah, she worked there. And Agnew came in with his wife, and he was, they thought they could help him, but he was in bad shape. And for some reason, they did not call the ambulance. He just wanted to be driven to the bigger hospital. So Teresa, my wife, helped him into the car and back of the building. His wife was in not much better shape. I mean, she barely said anything. And, you know, had a short conversation with him and told him what he should be doing. And off they went. And he died in the car. He died before he made it to the hospital.
Well, I mean, it's a long way to a big hospital. I mean, back then, it was a long way to a big hospital from Ocean City.
Well, it's Salisbury.
Yeah, it's still, I mean, it's a little ways away. It's about what, hour 15?
About 30 to 45 minutes, depending on traffic. But Agnew,
at night it'd been fine.
Yeah, Agnew expired in the car. I'm not even sure if they made it out of Ocean City, but he expired in the car.
Hmm.
So my wife has the distinction of being the last person to speak to a vice president before he croaked.
Yeah.
But also, there's other politicians who lived in Ocean City. I mean, I met Don Schaefer a number of times, and for people who are Marylanders, he was the best mayor and governor the state of Maryland ever had. Period. And he was such a character.
Everybody loved him. I mean, nobody ever had a bad thing to say about him. And I mean, I even remember him from when I was a kid. And I think he was governor when I left.
Yeah, he was governor by the time he left. And here's the weird little connection I have to Don Schaefer. You know, I ran into him a number of times in Ocean City. He was just one of these guys that you'll run into him every place. He doesn't care. If you're going to go get a tasty or a frosty on the boardwalk, well, there's Don Schaefer. Okay. But when I started my own contracting business in the mid 2000s, I was handed a job on top of one of the mountains outside of Cumberland to dismantle a train with torch work and small equipment. And it turned out that was Don Schaefer's campaign train. When he campaigned for governor, that was the train he went around the state of Maryland in doing whistle stops.
That was a big deal back in the day. Yeah.
It's a weird little come around to it all. But I was handed that contract to dismantle that whole, you know, it was a historical item.
One of the things I remember was where the mayor's office was in conjunction to the entertainment district of downtown Baltimore.
Are you talking about Light Street?
I'm talking about the block.
Okay.
Directly.
Now the exact geographical location of the block kind of moves a little bit from time to time.
Yeah, but back then it was about a block from the police station. Yeah.
Never in my life did I think I would pay $7 for a small glass of Coke, but I did.
And back then,
girls are friendly.
Yeah, but you know, you think about it, $7 for a glass of Coke back then would be equal to about $40 now.
Oh, I have no doubt. I'm sure inflation's hit hard there.
Yeah. So, like I said, I kind of remember the area, but not only because my mom would tell us to cover our eyes when we had to drive through there. She goes, I don't want my girls to see stuff like this.
Yeah.
And I said, well, Mom, your eyes are open. You have to drive. And she goes, right, I have to drive. I said, then you could have chose to not drive through here. But again,
Okay.
that's why I got smacked in the mouth for questioning my
Yeah,
mother.
potty mouth. Yeah.
But, so we're going to end the show. We're going to thank everybody for coming. Thank you, Frank, so much. I hope you do great in Hollywood. Where can everybody find Frank online?
Oh, you guys, just type my full name into Google. Everything comes up. I don't want you all having to go through that HTTP :// and all that cool stuff. Just type my full name into Google, and everything about me you want to know basically comes up.
Well, let us know how good you do at this event. And just for everybody out there, we have a show tomorrow night with Carl at 6 p.m. Central. And our guest is actually, I have it right here, Jeremy York. I told Ron's mom the wrong name. And there will not be a show.
That's what I thought.
There will not be a show next week or the following week because we're busy. And our daughter's coming to town from Vegas, so I didn't want to have us predisposed to something else should we want to go out to eat or have fun with our kid. So Make sure you guys tune in when we come back. Let's see, when is that? So June 7th, no, June 23rd, when my guest is Karen Lavin. You guys may remember her as, I would call her Linda Lavin. Her name is Karen. And on June 24th, Mike and Tori Kraken from down here in Fort Walton, they're going to come back on. We're going to talk to them again about hypnosis and how you can utilize it to make your life better. So it'll be great.
I've been hypnotized.
You've been hypnotized. That's how I got that ring. Who knows what I've been doing to get my way. So, but yeah, join us tomorrow night at 6 p.m. Central. Carl, Ron, and myself with Jeremy York. And you can catch us here most every Monday night at 7 p.m. Central for the Paranormal Pride. And you can catch us on Things Network, Temple of Phoenix Rising Entertainment. Let's see, on Rumble, on BoRNTV, on Dark Realm TV, on Roku and Amazon Fire. And you can also find us on my Facebook page for the Paranormal Pride, as well as the Paranormal Pride YouTube page and Denise Pridemore LinkedIn. If there's anywhere else, you guys are going to have to tell me. So, because I've forgotten where they all are. But join us tomorrow night at 6 p.m. and for Paranormal Nation Radio, Not So Normal. And let's see what not normal stuff we're going to be talking about then. So thank you, Frank, so much. And everybody have a great weekend and enjoy your June.